What's happening? Coach Tyler from Orange Theory Avery Ranch coming to you. I want to go over a little bit about the rower, some things that we don't always get to talk to you about all at once during class, right? We might throw this to you one day, this to you the next day, but I'm going to see if we can kind of throw the kitchen sink at you and see if we can maybe improve our members' rowing a little bit. So I got Miguel on the camera. Miguel, will you come on over? Let's talk about it. So we all know, right, the power button is in the top left-hand corner. So first thing I want to talk about is this strap. So this strap, they say, should be going across about your bottom shoelace or right where the toes meet the foot. So like right across there. Everyone's a little bit different. You know, maybe you feel better here. But the big pet peeve of mine is when I look over and someone is just kind of, you know, it's definitely not supposed to be there. That is the smallest setting. This is for the smallest foot ever. So when I see a guy kind of on this setting, I'm just thinking you're either too lazy to kind of switch it or something's going on. Maybe you don't know. But as long as we know, the more holes that are showing, the smaller you're telling me your foot is. So I like a size 4. And again, everyone's a little different. Maybe you kind of like it a little bit lower, but just as long as it's not way on up there or way down at the bottom. Now let's talk a little bit about rowing. One big thing I always try to say is remember it's a pressing motion, not a pulling. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. So I want you to think about pressing your legs through that wall that way. So, you know, one way of thinking about it is you can just go straight arm. It's just legs, right? So it's just legs. Another thing that I see is you know, so you're going to be pulling. Another thing that Coach Aaron Kaiser, by the way, if you see me kind of hunching, that's just something I'm working on, okay? Don't hate me. I'm not perfect. And that being said, you know, I'm not the best rower on the planet, but, you know, I've seen a little bit of it. One thing Coach Aaron has always said, he says nothing should feel like an over. So nothing should feel like an overreach. So it shouldn't feel like you have to overreach here, and it shouldn't feel like you have to over lean back here, right? So it should feel like a reach, and it should feel like a lean, but everyone's different, right? Some people feel real comfortable getting on way on up there. Some people feel comfortable leaning back a little bit of ways, but nothing should feel out of sequence for you, okay? So nothing should feel like an over. So we're going to go reach, we're going to go drive. I'm just squeezing my legs, lean back and finish. Now, we get a lot of people talking about low back pain. First thing I want to remind you is this is a low back workout, right? There is certain parts of the low back that are happening. But let's see if we can get you to stop. I want you to try to, if you got a little bit of low back stuff, number one, let's see how you're sitting. I'd encourage you to sit on your sit bones. So make sure we're not slumping too much. Make sure we're not like really arched. Just kind of nice and natural, neutral sitting. And I want you to think about taking your focus from here and putting it more here. So instead of the back is pulling it, I want you to think the hips are driving it. So I want you to think about maybe squeezing that butt more. Maybe putting it more in these quads as you drive through. I promise you, if you squeeze your butt more, it'll take the tension off here and it'll put it here. Okay, it'll let this kind of not take the load so much. So I really encourage you guys to think about when you come forward, right here, I'm trying to, you know, make sure my butt is squeezed a little bit, right? Pressing through those legs. So take that tension off your low back and let's put it more in those legs as best as you can. Okay, legs and hips. Now, one last thing I got for you. So that's the back breaker, right? We're not trying to do that. Now, this is it's kind of difficult to find. I want you to think of 2 focus points. It's the compression here and the compression at the end. A lot of times I see people that lose their energy as the end. So they come here and you should never, I say bring yourself forward. So I say you should never be thinking about pulling yourself forward. You should just kind of get those hands away, bring yourself forward, press, bring yourself forward. So I see a lot of people, they come here and then they rip their toes. It's almost like they get this little, and they like rip themselves forward. And try not to rip yourself forward so much because you're losing it. People do a good job of pressing and then they lose it. It's like an energy kill. They go boom and then they lose it. Boom and then they lose it because they're bringing themselves back too quick, right? And you can maybe even be leaning forward a little bit more, right? And you kind of lose it. So really focus, this has got to be tight. Really focus on here to here, right? Hands go first. Try not to let those knees, they say the hands go away first and knees bend at the very end. Let's see if there's any last thing I can think of that I see a lot of. You know, and I kind of showed it to you earlier. we tell people to press with their legs, and they do press with their legs. They're like this, and they're pressing with their legs. I get it, it's like a leg press. But something about it is a little off, and you can just visually see that. It is a leg press, but it's not this leaning back on it. I want you to think more about being here. Think about those hips going first. Hips go first, but not a whole lot. Just kind of hips go first, lean and finish. Try not to do too much of this. Try to stay a little bit more on top of it, maybe that's a better word. Still trying to figure out how to get people out of that, but if you don't check yourself kind of in the mirror, just take a look down at the end right there. Sometimes you can see your reflection here. I'm always looking around, trying to see if I can kind of spot myself in the mirror. How am I doing, you know? So think about reaching, driving, and remember, don't go off the toes. So these heels can come off, but try to get those heels back down, press through it. And last thing, I can teach it. You don't have to teach someone how to go fast on a rower, okay? It's not like a treadmill. Treadmill's something anyone can go fast, right? Anyone can go fast. You don't have to teach someone that. If I can teach you to be strong on this thing, strong, right? Be strong. Then we can start putting the fast in where we need it to be. So maybe think of it more like a push and an all out. You see a 700-meter row. Think of the first 500 meters are like a push, right? You're strong. And then the last 200 is more of an all out feeling, right? I'm still strong and I'm going for it. So remember, think strong, not fast. That fast, that'll come naturally. You don't have to work on that. Let's work on being strong in our legs and our hips, abs, and back. Till next time, Miguel, thank you so much. Orange Theory Avery Ranch, I'll see you guys around. Take it easy.